We always want what slips through our fingers. But what if the chase itself is the addict? There's a scene that repeats itself across decades, across generations, across millions of quiet hearts. Woman sits by her phone. He hasn't texted. He said he would, but didn't. And instead of turning away, her mind tightens its grip. The absence feeds the desire. His distance somehow becomes the proof of his worth. This is the paradox. The less we get, the more we crave. And the more we crave, the less we see clearly. Why? Why does the unavailable man, emotionally cold, inconsistent, detached, awaken something deeper than the nice one who's always there? Desire is not born from having. It's born from lack. The brain doesn't release dopamine when it receives a reward. It releases dopamine in anticipation of it. The wanting system, not the satisfaction system, drives the chase. So when a man becomes unpredictable, warm, then distant, the mind enters survival mode. It stops asking, "Is this good for me?" and starts asking, "How can I get more?" The attraction becomes a puzzle to solve. And nothing triggers the brain's reward circuits like a puzzle with no clear solution. This is the first layer of the trap. Emotional unavailability mimics mystery, and mystery mimics value. We mistake inconsistency for depth and confusion for chemistry. Picture her at that dimly lit bar. He walks in late, half apologetic, half absent. She smiles, masking the storm inside. He talks about his dreams, about how he doesn't do relationships, and she hears a challenge instead of a warning. He's not cruel, just unreadable. He leaves and she feels the drop, that dizzying silence, the crash after the high. Her friends tell her to move on, but she can't, because deep down she believes that if she can reach him, she'll finally prove her worth. What she doesn't see is that he's already fulfilling a deeper need, not to be loved, but to struggle for love. The struggle gives meaning. The chase gives identity. The pain feels like purpose. We mistake emotional distance for emotional depth, because our minds confuse mystery with meaning. But mystery isn't magic. It's a mask, and before we can remove it, we have to ask, where did this attraction begin? Was it written by biology, or by the stories we were raised to believe? We like to think our choices are our own, but what if the kind of love we chase was scripted long before we ever met them? Some patterns don't come from personality, they come from programming. Hidden inside every craving is an ancient code: survival, reproduction, safety, and status. We didn't design it. We inherited it, and yet it still dictates who we find magnetic, dangerous, or irresistible. The emotionally unavailable man. He's the modern echo of something ancient, a signal once tied to power, protection, and unpredictability. In evolutionary terms, unpredictability often equaled potential. The mysterious male wasn't safe, but he was strong. His distance hinted at status. His scarcity implied value. When resources were uncertain, being chosen by the one who didn't need you meant something primal. You had earned the attention of someone others couldn't reach. His distance hinted at status. His scarcity implied value. When resources were uncertain, being chosen by the one who didn't need you meant something primal. You had earned the attention of someone others couldn't reach. Today, the context has changed, but the wiring hasn't. That ancient reward system still whispers, "If I can win over the one who doesn't need me, I'll prove my worth." But biology alone doesn't explain obsession. Culture took that primal spark and built an empire around it. Today, the context has changed, but the wiring hasn't. That ancient reward system still whispers, "If I can win over the one who doesn't need me, I'll prove my worth." But biology alone doesn't explain obsession. Culture took that primal spark and built an empire around it. From the first stories we heard, we were taught to equate love with effort. Think of the fairy tales, the beauty who saves the beast, the woman who melts the cold heart of a tortured soul. Every narrative tells her, if he's distant, it's because he's wounded, and your love will heal him. That myth became art, then cinema, then social media. Romantic chaos turned into aesthetic. We glorified detachment as depth and emotional stillness as masculine control. The unavailable man became not the warning sign, but the goal. The result? A generation chasing ghosts, confusing trauma for chemistry and silence for strength. She's 12, watching a film late at night. The tragic anti-hero walks alone, cigarette glowing in the dark. He doesn't say much, but when he does, every word cuts deep. The girl doesn't just watch him, she absorbs him. Years later, she'll meet his real-life version, charming, withdrawn, intoxicating. She'll think it's fate. It's not fate, it's conditioning. That's how the roots grow, quietly, invisibly. We internalize the stories, and they start choosing for us. Desire isn't destiny, it's conditioning disguised as choice. But if culture and biology built the frame, what carved the fine details? What made your desire take this shape? The answer lies deeper, in the first bonds we ever formed, and the way they taught us what love feels like. Before we ever fell in love, we learned what love feels like. And for many, love never felt safe. It felt like waiting. Every story of attraction begins long before adulthood, long before the bar, the text, the heartbreak. It begins in a small room. A child waits for warmth. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. That rhythm, presence and absence, comfort and distance becomes the silent music the heart dances to for life. We don't fall for people. We fall for familiarity. Attachment theory explains that we develop internal maps of love based on early caregivers. If love was consistent, we learned that closeness is safe. If love was unpredictable, we learned that closeness must be earned. If love was distant, we learned that closeness is dangerous. For the anxiously attached, emotional unavailability feels magnetic, not because it's healthy, but because it's home. The body recognizes the tension, the waiting, the inconsistency, and calls it love. The unavailable partner doesn't create the wound, they replay it. And so when he pulls away, the old fear awakens. If I can just make him stay, I'll finally fix the original pain. It's not attraction. It's repetition, a child's unfinished story, seeking closure through adult romance. She's 7 years old. Her father promises to pick her up after school. She waits on the steps, backpack at her feet, eyes on the street. Cars pass, the sun sets. He doesn't come. She learns 2 things that day. Love doesn't always arrive. When it doesn't, you wait harder. Years later, she dates a man who goes silent for days. The same feeling returns, that ache, that anticipation, that quiet hope. But this time, she calls it passion. Because when pain is familiar, peace feels foreign. Psychologists call this repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate early pain in the hope of rewriting it. It's not self-sabotage, it's self-repair. We seek the same wound, hoping for a different ending. The tragedy? Unavailable partners rarely change the script, they just recite their lines more convincingly. We don't chase love, we chase the version of love we were taught to survive. But knowing the map isn't enough, because even when we see the pattern, the craving doesn't die. It lives in the chemistry, in the dopamine hits and emotional highs that keep us hooked. To understand why we can't walk away, we have to enter the brain's casino, where love and addiction share the same circuitry. It's not love that keeps you hooked. It's the uncertainty of love. When you fall for someone who's emotionally unavailable, you're not chasing a person, you're chasing a pattern built on intermittent reinforcement, one of the most powerful psychological forces ever studied. It's the same mechanism that keeps gamblers glued to slot machines, the same that drives social media addiction. And in relationships, it turns inconsistent affection into emotional heroin. You don't crave him because he's kind. You crave him because you never know when he'll be kind again. Intermittent reinforcement happens when rewards come unpredictably. Not every time, just sometimes. In experiments, rats pressed levers for food. When pellets appeared every time, the rats got bored. But when pellets came randomly, sometimes after 2 presses, sometimes after 10, they became obsessed. They pressed the lever endlessly, desperate for the next hit. Humans aren't so different. When affection, attention, or validation arrive inconsistently, dopamine floods the brain in anticipation of the next reward. The high becomes intoxicating. The silence between responses becomes unbearable. And so we wait, and scroll, and replay every text, every word, every gesture, searching for the next emotional pellet. She's lying in bed, midnight. The phone glows, one message. "Hey, you up?" Her heart spikes, not because the words mean anything, but because they could. That small ping carries more dopamine than 1,000 good morning texts from someone stable. She tells herself it's harmless, just curiosity. But the brain doesn't speak the language of reason. It speaks the language of reward. He becomes the variable ratio machine. Pull the lever, maybe he replies. Pull it again, maybe he doesn't. Every unanswered message tightens the chain. Every small response feels like winning the lottery. That's how unpredictability rewires desire. Intermittent reinforcement hijacks the reward prediction error system. When the brain expects a reward and doesn't get it, dopamine surges even higher. The pain of loss merges with the hope of gain, and together they create obsession. The mind rationalizes it as chemistry. But it's not chemistry, it's conditioning. The relationship becomes a slot machine of emotions. You're not addicted to him, you're addicted to not knowing. Inconsistency doesn't make love deeper, it just makes it addictive. But addiction is never just about the substance, it's about what the substance mirrors. The unavailable man reflects something back, something the heart needs to see. And that reflection, not the man himself, is what we truly fall for. We think we fall in love with people, but most of the time we fall in love with our own reflection in them. There's something haunting about emotional unavailability, something that pulls us in despite every red flag. It's not logic, it's projection. When someone keeps their distance, our mind rushes to fill the empty space with imagination. We start building a fantasy version of them, one who feels, one who cares, one who's almost ready to love. But the truth is, that person doesn't exist. They're a mask we painted onto a mirror. And in that mirror, what we really see is ourselves. Projection is the process of assigning our own hidden emotions, needs, and ideals onto someone else. It's how the unconscious tries to speak. When we meet someone distant or mysterious, our mind fills in the blanks with everything we want to believe. Their silence must mean depth. Their detachment must mean pain. Their inconsistency must mean fear, not indifference. We fall in love with the story we write about them, not the person standing before us. And that story often reveals more about our self-worth than their personality, because beneath the chase lies a quiet belief. I am not enough unless I can make the unavailable choose me. That's not romance. That's a negotiation with our own reflection. She's standing in front of a mirror, putting on her lipstick before a date. She rehearses what to say, how to keep it light, how not to seem too much. She's not preparing to meet him. She's preparing to meet his silence. Every text he ignores, she explains away. Every cancellation she forgives, every crumb of affection she magnifies. She isn't trying to win his heart. She's trying to convince her reflection that she's worthy of being chosen. But mirrors don't love back. They only reflect what you project. Unavailable partners are often magnetic because they give us the illusion of earning worth. The struggle validates us. Every tiny reward feels like proof that we are enough. Yet the moment we stop chasing, the illusion collapses. And what remains is the truth we've avoided. Our worth was never supposed to depend on someone else's capacity to see it. When you project your longing onto a closed heart, you're not seeking love. You're seeking reconciliation with yourself. The unavailable don't complete us. They reveal where we abandoned ourselves. But we didn't invent this mirror alone. The culture around us, the films, the songs, the love stories, taught us that pain is proof of passion, that to suffer is to love deeply. It's time to pull back the curtain on that myth. Because if pain has become beautiful, maybe beauty itself has been weaponized. What if pain became beautiful? Not by accident, but by design. Every generation inherits its gods. Ours weren't carved in marble. They were filmed in dim lighting, with cigarettes, leather jackets, and eyes that never said, "I love you." From ancient myths to modern cinema, one story repeats: the broken man, redeemed by a woman's love. He's cold, detached, untouchable, until she arrives. She suffers, she waits, she saves. And when he finally opens his heart for a moment, we call it a happy ending. But what we rarely question is this: why did she have to bleed for it first? Culture doesn't just reflect desire, it shapes it. Through repetition, it trains the collective nervous system on what love is supposed to feel like. Films, music, literature, all sell the same archetype. Love as pursuit, desire as struggle, pain as proof. And when these patterns saturate the psyche, we begin to crave the familiar discomfort of emotional distance. Psychologists call this cultural conditioning of attachment scripts. It's when entertainment repeatedly rewards suffering with intimacy. The brain learns, if I endure the pain long enough, I'll earn love. This turns heartbreak into identity. Suffering becomes aesthetic. We start to romanticize our own wounds, posting quotes about deep souls and complicated love, mistaking trauma for emotional intelligence. It's not love we glorify, it's endurance. This myth doesn't just damage individuals, it shapes society. It teaches women to equate emotional labor with love. It teaches men that withholding emotion makes them desirable. And it ensures both stay trapped, one performing pain, the other performing power. But the truth is simpler, quieter, and far less cinematic. Love that doesn't hurt doesn't lack depth. It lacks drama. And drama is what we've been addicted to. Culture turned pain into poetry, and we called it love. But there's a rebellion rising, a quiet movement of people learning to crave peace over chaos, consistency over intensity. The question is, how do we rewire desire itself? How do we teach the heart to crave calm when it's addicted to storms? The answer lies not in the world, but in the rewiring of your own nervous system. The hardest part isn't leaving them. It's leaving the version of yourself that needed them. We've explored the machinery of desire, the biology, the culture, the childhood ghosts. We've seen how the brain mistakes pain for passion, how unpredictability becomes a drug, and how projection turns loneliness into longing. But now comes the question every survivor of emotional unavailability must face. How do you stop wanting what hurts you? Because walking away is not the end. It's the beginning of detox. The process of rewiring desire is less about logic and more about neural retraining. You can't think your way out of an emotional addiction. You have to experience safety until it feels natural again. The brain learns through association, repetition, and emotion. So if love has always felt like anxiety, your nervous system must learn that love can feel like calm and still be real. That's not instant. It's a gradual unlearning, the opposite of the high. It's peace, and peace is quiet. First, awareness, naming the pattern. Say it out loud. I confuse unpredictability with depth. Awareness breaks the trance. It takes love from the realm of fate into the realm of choice. Second, withdrawal, creating the gap. Distance is not punishment, it's rehabilitation. The silence that once haunted you becomes the space where your nervous system learns to breathe again. Third, replacement. Building new reward loops. Replace chaos with consistency. Surround yourself with people, habits, and environments that mirror stability, not adrenaline. The first few times it will feel boring. That's the sign you're healing. Fourth, redefinition, reframing love itself. Redefine what attraction means. If spark feels like anxiety, call it what it is. Chemical confusion. True attraction will feel different, grounding, safe, steady. Fifth, reconnection, healing the inner child. The goal isn't to never feel the pull again. It's to recognize who inside you is feeling it and comfort them before you chase another ghost. She sees his name light up her phone. Not a call, just a message, a hook. Old her would have opened it instantly, but this time she pauses, she breathes. And in that small, sacred pause, she realizes something. She doesn't need to know what he said, because what she needed wasn't him. It was closure, and she's already given that to herself. She puts the phone down. The silence feels strange, but not empty. It feels earned. Healing isn't about never falling again. It's about recognizing the fall and knowing you have wings. It's about rewriting your nervous system's story, one boundary at a time. The reward is subtle but profound. Peace starts to feel like passion. Stability starts to feel magnetic, and suddenly love that doesn't hurt begins to look beautiful. You stop craving chaos when you stop mistaking it for connection. The emotionally unavailable man was never your destiny. He was your mirror. He reflected the parts of you still learning what love should not require: pain, waiting, or permission. You don't heal by chasing closure. You heal by becoming the kind of person who no longer seeks love in unavailable places. And that, finally, is freedom, not from them, but from the cycle itself.